have not accepted the existence of God because you said God doesn't exist because there is no proof for it. So prior to you coming to Speaker's Corner, you've already rejected this claim that God exists. So you had some evidence or absence of evidence to make up this mind. So what was your rationality in operation, which you used to say, that's it, I'm convinced pretty much God doesn't exist. So you said you thought God never told you in public or in private that I'm God and didn't do anything magic. Is that what happened?
I'll tell you what it is. It's for the same reason you don't believe in unicorns.
That's not the reason that my belief and disbelief rest on. You had a particular reason of disbelief or rejection of the Creator. Or a unicorn. You see, you know what you're doing again? Why do I reject unicorns? The burden of proof seems to be shifting every single time.
The burden of proof is on the person making the claim. So if someone says God exists...
Now you made the claim. Excuse me. You made the claim he doesn't exist. Did you not make the claim?
I said I'm an atheist. I said...
No. The question.
Okay,
that's
let me speak to
here
Brad.
To discuss, by the way.
Brad said God doesn't exist, so you made a claim. So I would like to see some justification of your claim, where you said God doesn't exist because there is no evidence for it. So what evidence did you have in mind, and it wasn't convincing to you?
I'd echo what George said about that.
What is it?
How can I believe in something that I have no proof of?
When you say proof...
And by the way, that might be that someone hasn't presented me with it.
Okay. So when you say proof, what constitutes proof?
Well, then I guess that opens it up to what is God. Because we perceive God...
Let's simplify. God, in our discussion, is the creator of this cosmos. The one who originated and brought this cosmos into this reality. Yeah? That's why we're able to talk, because we are living creatures. So, what constitutes proof to you? Or objectively, what is proof?
Very good question.
But you've rejected him with this idea of proof in mind.
I'm open to being educated.
That's something different, but you've already had some rejection in the very beginning. Is your rejection, what I'm trying to get at, Brad, with no disrespect, right? We are all human beings, we're trying to learn from each other. I will learn from you today, definitely. And I'm sure you learn something from me, right? So what we're trying to see is this, is our rejection and acceptance of something based on a solid foundation or not? Or are we going by what we call going by the flow? Everyone's believing or disbelieving in something and we are just joining the bandwagon. Remember, many people believe in evolution or disbelieve in evolution, but if you ask them, have you researched enough to disbelieve or to accept it? And you'll find that the vast majority of the people, they haven't. So they've just, followed like a sheep, right, believing in it. When it comes to God, this is a very fundamental question to our life, because if we are here in this life, it's important to ask, are we here for no purpose? Am I just here a party of dust floating around? Or has there been a purpose of me being here? I'm put here by a creator. I mean, these kind of questions, you, in your age, you will be asking. And I have asked, and everyone will be asking these questions. Why? Because these are the questions that are very profound and meaningful to us for our everyday living. Just like animal cruelty is very profound to you and to me, yes?
Not necessarily cruelty, just the general use and exploitation.
Yeah, I will say animal cruelty. Of course, no to animal cruelty. Even transportation of animals. Are you actually transporting them in a comfortable way or not? If you're not, then you are being very cruel to animals. Yeah, so we're not against animal rights, of course, but there's a difference between animal rights and human rights, and there's a difference between the right of the creator. So that's why we're going back, not from the periphery, but to the original source of our creator. If there was no creator who created this universe, then if you think about it, there should be nothing in existence. No God, no creator, there should be absolutely nothing. The fact that there is something then really, makes everything different. If there was no God, if there was no creator, there should be nothing, absolutely nothing. There should be nothing, we shouldn't be even here discussing. But the fact that we are here and we are something, it tells us a lot about how we're here and who put us here. Can you think about or even imagine nothingness?
Nothingness.
Bringing about something?
No, I guess not, just by the definition of the word nothingness.
Exactly. So nothingness doesn't have its own existence because it doesn't have anything to be something. It's just a concept, It has no energy, it has no power, it has no consciousness, it has no will. Nothing of that. That's why it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing.
Right.
Such a thing, which is nothing, not even a thing, cannot bring something like you and me. So if we are something today, now, this very minute, there could not be a time in the past where there was absolute nothingness. Because absolute nothingness results in absolute nothingness. And there will be absolute nothingness.
Right.
So if we are something now, there has to be something always.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
So either someone in your way of thinking where you think there's no God, then the matter has to be always eternal. Matter has to be always in existence. Or something like this, which is, what you consider to be reality, what you see of the cosmos, has to be always there in some form or other. There has to be something always there. But if you have something always there, things that came as a result of whatever within this something that generated you and me, which demonstrates some intelligence, demonstrates some kind of consciousness, will and design and knowledge, and you call it skill, whatever you want to call it. It's like you are a piece of art where it's designed, right? Everything fits into, look at yourself and look at ourselves. The fact that we are standing is because we have something in our ears that is making us to be balanced, right? Yeah. That's why when you have tinnitus, that's ear infection, you feel like dizzy and the whole world spins around you and you fall over. Yeah. So you have a balancing mechanism in your ears. The whole thing, the fact that you are listening to me and understanding what I'm trying to say and agreeing with me, there's a cognitive processes going on within your brain. Synapses are happening throughout millions of holes are firing, connecting, and making sense. Now, all of these things, interconnections and all things that are happening, it's not just random things that appeared. I mean, it doesn't make sense that things just popped into existence like this. It's not a biological system, but like this camera.
Right.
Okay? But if you consider a biological system, like you and me, we are more complex than this ordinary camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So, if this we cannot accept to be just appearing by itself with randomness over millions and billions of time, we haven't got many billions anyway for our universe, how do we accept that a biological system like you and me, even to the very basics of life, how life first is supposedly originated, is very complex. Okay? The first cell is very complex. So that means then, if something exists always, ask yourself, does this thing have some kind of intelligence? If it doesn't, then how does it show this intelligence now? Everything's like design.
Evolution.
Evolution. What is evolution? Does it have consciousness?
No, but I'm saying over time we've evolved and continuously evolved, and that's the explanation for what you're saying.
Interesting explanation, but does it really, provide a meaningful justification of what we see?
No, but there doesn't have to be a meaning to everything, doesn't it?
Then I can say it's actually by Tunka Wonka did it.
Right. Okay.
Not meaningful to you because you don't even got a clue what Tunka Wonka is.
No.
Yeah. So, would you accept it?
Not necessarily, no.
Exactly. You want to know what is this Tunka Wonka that has caused this kind of, processes and designs and in place.
The point is, if everything complex must have a designer, then who designed the designer?
No, that's not the argument. The argument is not everything complex. This is one of the logical fallacies. The debate between creationists and anti-creationists, like evolutionists. We're not saying everything complex and so on. What we're saying is this: you can see clearly complexity.
Right.
Complexity needs to be explained, but there are levels of complexity.
Yeah.
Information is a higher level of complexity. I can just use random letters and just juggle them around and roll them on the floor, and by randomness, you can probably find a word called ant, A-N-T. It's possible. Yeah. But if I did this, and then you have a whole Shakespeare for me, because I had lots of letters, then you would say that doesn't really make much sense with the probability and the chance statistics that we employ in our chance
Right.
probabilities, because the information is too complex. There are patterns, but there are levels of these patterns where it goes into complex, eventually to information.
Okay.
So we have this information within our DNA, highest level of information complexity.
Agreed.
Yep. That you cannot explain by just randomness, a process which is not directed by a
creator.
conscious agent.
Right. Okay.
Because evolution is not a conscious agent.
Right.
It's just the description of a process.
Right. Okay. But the thing is, there could be multiple explanations. It doesn't necessarily necessitate a creator.
So
Like, I'm
if-
not saying I know all the answers.
Sure.
But-
So if it's, you see, that's what we're trying to understand. If there is no creator, then there should be nothing in the first place. But the fact that there is something, then we're trying to see how this fits in.
Not necessarily. There doesn't necessarily always have to be a creator.
So if there is no creator, should there be anything in existence?
Why not?
Okay.
I'm just saying it's like
How?
there are multiple. I'm not a physicist.
Neither am I.
No, and I'm not particularly well versed in this argument either. But all I'm going to say is that like just one explanation isn't necessarily the right one. I mean, we could have multiple explanations.
Yeah,
for
we can examine all these explanations, see which is the best explanation.
Right.
And we can get rid of, for example, if, for example, a murder happened, you can explain aliens did it. That's one explanation. Yeah? Aliens came and murdered that individual. But you might find other video footages
and that's where evolution comes in. There's loads of evidence to suggest that evolution.
That's what we're
was-
discussing. Evolution doesn't actually explain this level of complexity. It doesn't.
Well, I'm not an evolutionary biologist.
Then let's leave
Otherwise,
that.
I would
That-
respond to that. But
Sure.
why not? Why not? Why can't evolution explain that?
As I said, evolution
Like,
is not
I don't know if it
driven
does.
by a conscious agent. It's just unconscious process, not driven and directed by anything that is conscious and willing. It's not.
But why does it? I still don't understand why there has to be a conscious agent. Like even like you talked about DNA being like the level of complexity that has. So what? I mean, why can't something complex originate from without a creator?
No, you can't.
But why not?
Okay.
Why not? There could be
Okay.
multiple explanations.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let's check this slowly.
Very, very long. as
Now,
well.
Yeah.
so take a pic of any of the cameras, right?
Okay.
Who's got the YouTube channel?
Why would you say that this camera, okay, it's not the blind watchmaker argument. Lots of logical fallacies by the author of this book and the people who write. This is a camera. Why can't this camera, by unconscious processes, come to be over millions of years in this form?
Well, obviously, like that's different.
Why can it not come?
That's different though.
No, it's not different.
Yeah.
There's something. Remember when we talked about what's the difference between us and animals? There are certain differences. So there are differences between this and a biological system. What is it that stops us from accepting that this particular camera can come by unconscious, undirected, random processes to this level of complexity?
Because it operates for a specific role.
So does your eye.
Yeah,
So does your
but-
ears,
but
and your
so
tongue,
what?
and your heart, and your lungs, and your
So
kidneys.
what? So what?
So the
Like
argument is similar.
we've evolved to adapt to survive.
No. This, I could say, is evolved to now have 4K. 4K. Not only like in a HD definition, high definition, but 4K. Evolved. So, but you wouldn't accept that.
Okay. So go into like the original.
No, we moved into this from the periphery to the actual, root cause of our discussion, which is the existence of a creator.
Why
Yeah,
is that-
but
why
you,
is that
regardless of whether
because
there's a creator or not, yeah, even if you do believe there's a creator, it's still unnecessary in this day and age to use animals as objects
Okay.
and to
So
treat them
shall
as
we
like
go
property.
back to this point anyway, right? Because it's important to discuss. How do we do research to establish drugs that works in very, very, high-risk diseases, very complex?
Can you give some examples?
Cancers.
Oh, okay. So what's your point?
So if you don't do, look, I am not saying anything about cruelty to animals because that's absolutely wrong, right?
But eating them
I'm
for an
talk-
unnecessary reason.
No, you should only eat to survive, maybe.
But
and-
you can eat something
or-
else. You can eat something else. You don't have to eat
Okay.
animals.
What about vegetables?
Yeah, but mate,
Wait.
you would be
What
way more
about-
outraged
what
if
about
I was
vegetables?
if I was beating a dog than if I was standing on a blade of grass.
No,
wouldn't you?
this question is not about cruelty anymore. It's about eating. Do you eat plants and fruits and
Yes.
vegetables?
Yes.
Are they alive or dead?
They're alive, but
Right.
they're not sentient.
So now, so now we're talking
Sentience
about
is the criteria.
sentient. Explain what you mean by sentient.
So the ability to experience pain, pleasure, the
They
ability.
experience pain.
No, they don't. No, they don't, mate.
Okay, this
They
is-
don't have a central nervous system. They don't have a brain. Okay. I'm sorry, but you would be way more outraged if I was beating a dog than if I was snapping a branch off a tree, wouldn't you? Sada.
Sada, I'm
Yeah.
Mansur.
You're sorry.
Mansur.
Mansur. Nice.
Studies have been done already, decades ago, where plants experience pain.
Not in the same way animals do.
You see now what's shifted?
And
We're
they don't
constantly-
experience pain at all.
Sada, we're shifting the goal every single time. You know, your argument seems
They
to
react
be
to
not very-
stimuli, but they don't feel pain.
They do feel pain, and people have done experiments already. So you are now saying not to the level of pain that we experience. Now, that's not the question. Do they experience pain? Yes, they do.
How?
If-
If they don't have a central nervous system and pain receptors like us and animals do, how can they feel pain? And also, if they did feel pain, do you not think plants would have evolved to a point where they could avoid pain?
You see, that's
Or they
why
can't, because they're stuck
the
in the
question
ground.
about evolution. That's why we go back to the old discussion about the creator. Because the moment you bring an evolution idea,
why would the creator create plants or animals indeed to feel pain for us to then exploit
Use them,
them?
So-
for an unnecessary reason.
not unnecessary.
It is unnecessary in the UK.
Not
In the
unnecessary.
first world country, it's unnecessary to
Okay.
use animals.
Do you know you have enzymes in your digestive systems specifically there to utilize meat?
So what?
Do you know you have canine teeth to
So
chew
what?
meat?
So what? We don't have to anymore.
That's
Hang
not
on,
a
wait,
canine.
wait,
mate.
we don't have to
That is
anymore,
for
though.
biting into apples and biting through nuts.
do we have
This
to
could not tear
to
through
digest
flesh.
meat?
Yours could not tear through flesh.
What you don't realize is this:
Digest meat.
the
In any
system,
case, it's irrelevant.
the system. It's not about
Nothing
relevance.
to
Are you
digest
talking about
protein,
biologically?
I'm
not
talking about
meat.
biologically.
Biologically speaking,
You
we
are
are herbivorous.
designed not to be a vegetarian.
But we don't need to use animals anymore.
What about my
nutrition is a numbers
What about
game.
my body
So-
implies
You
I
can
should
get
eat
those-
animals?
you can get those numbers from plants.
Sardar and Brad, you're constantly shifting your argument. If
we're
your
not.
argument is animals don't suffer pain, yes they do. If your argument is, you know what, we are not designed to, to eat meat, yes you are designed.
How?
So,
No, but in
I
any
just,
case-
explain that,
I just
please.
told you.
Even if we are, even
Why
if
would
we
you
are,
have
we don't need to anymore.
enzymes to digest
we don't need to anymore.
proteins from animals?
Yeah, but we don't
Why?
need to anymore.
So it's not the question about we don't need to
don't need
anymore
to, but you
because
design.
you've already
Of course.
designed.
So what? We
like
don't need
it.
to anymore. Even if we can eat
That's your
animals.
choice, you make it.
Yeah, but why
But-
why use an animal for an unnecessary reason?
And you-
So,
you
Sardar,
made-
so
It
your
is
argument,
unnecessary,
so
'cause
your
you can be healthy
argument,
without using animals.
okay, so
You
your
can't be healthy
argument,
without using animals.
your argument is no longer that we are designed or not. Yes, we are designed, but we don't. In
How
fact,
would you feel if you were that animal?
let me put this argument forward. You should be eating plants at all. No animals, no plants.
Stop being snowflakes.
Evolve. Go
eat
into one
animals,
step
they're here for
further.
our pleasure.
Don't eat plants at all.
Breathe
Maybe
the
they have a
air.
little bit of pain experience. Don't eat plants and fruits and vegetables. Next step. What are you going to do? What are you
Well, we're
gonna
going to
Don't
die.
want to be killed.
you're gonna die. So you're going to be merciless, ruthless, eating vegetable to make you survive.
Yeah, of course.
What a selfish reason, Brad.
No, it's not. That's not selfish.
Okay,
That's
so-
necessary.
Okay, so now you're saying if it's necessary, it's okay.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's how we live, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
it's necessary to eat plants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're fine with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we find that we can actually have animals and
I do, yeah.
Are those microphones? They are. Okay, I've never seen them.
they're not leeches.
No, that's fine.
But like dog isn't very tasty.
Yeah, go on, please, go on.
So the question about necessity, eating. So you don't want to eat any animals, right?
We don't want to use animals.
Oh, it's not about eating now. But you
It's
like
about
your
use.
burgers.
It's about use.
Okay.
We shouldn't use them. We shouldn't treat them as objects or
Okay.
property.
So in fact, we agree a lot in terms of not exploiting them, not overeating them.
I'm a dairy farmer.
Not exploiting.
You're not exploiting them.
Yeah. We
I
shouldn't
agree
use
with
them
you.
at all.
We shouldn't be exploiting them. But in terms of research, the reason why I think it's necessary
You
is
mean like medical research?
medical
And they
research.
stop crying.
If you don't do
animals, they don't
experiments in animals,
They forget about
no
it.
options, it's
And then
not
they have
computer
another baby next
simulation.
year.
Right.
Because they do not simulate the real environment
It's not sick, it's
a
life.
diseased body of a human being is.
Right.
So a healthy volunteer, even so, if they were to volunteer, and they're very unlikely to volunteer because you won't find healthy volunteers.
Not
you could
obvious.
pay them.
Something is obvious.
Medical trials.
Oh, that's okay. That's justified.
You know, that's voluntary. That's voluntary. They're just getting paid for it.
Right. So you're saying if
They're
somebody.
consenting. They're consenting
Yeah,
to it.
humans
So
can give
the
consent,
animals in
animals can't.
laboratories
So
are
if
not. They
someone-
can't give consent.
Okay, I didn't understand this argument. If someone consents to be tortured, it's okay.
Move on very
course.
quickly.
It's up to them.
It's consent, mate.
So basically,
I don't
your
know why they
argument
would.
is not about torture then.
So you look at
If a
someone
monkey
feeling
were
like
able
that,
to consent, you'd be okay with it.
Yeah, but they can't give consent. Animals can't give consent.
Yeah, so basically it's nothing to do with torture itself as a
It's about
concept.
consent, yeah.
It's about consent.
Consent to use them, yeah.
Yeah, but I want you to think this carefully.
Go ahead.
You've moved away from this feeling of sympathy or empathy to other creation, whether it's an animal or a plant, away from all of this. So it's not about feelings anymore, it's about this guy's consenting to be shot at in his head. It's okay. That's his choice. Or her choice. No, I'm just saying. Do you see that?
I've no idea.
Sorry, say that again.
You've moved away from this feeling. You've divorced your feeling that is driven you to say, look, it's unnecessary, it's unjust. Unjust
Which
is
you agree with.
But what you're doing is you've moved away from this. So basically,
No, we haven't.
And it's nothing to do
You
with
have no
empathy, by the
feelings.
way. It's nothing to do with empathy or compassion. It's just a basic level of respect.
Yeah,
I respect you. I'm not going to harm you.
respect. So your respect is not to do with how people feel pain and suffer. Your concept of respect is as long as they get paid and they're consenting, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally up to them.
So,
It's
so,
nothing to do
so
with
now that's all. Now you're saying is it's all about greed. It's all about money. It's all about your own consent of how you abuse your own self.
The fact of the matter is, animals are innocent. They've done nothing wrong.
Humans.
And
Humans. That's about
Animals.
humans. The humans that consent to be tortured, you have no problem with that.
Because they agree to it.
Yeah. So
I'm not them, I can't choose for them.
So let's understand something. If a human is agreeing to be raped, you have no problem with that?
I'd find it questionable. But at least they're giving consent.
If they're
How
giving
is it? It's
consent
not
to be raped,
It's not consent if they give
The animals are not giving consent, and we're fine with that.
Listen.
That's an oxymoron. Rape can never be happen without consent.
It's difficult, but if a person blanketly said, okay, that's fine, and then everyone,
Well, some people are into really rough sex. So what?
That's not about rough sex. It's just a concept. I mean, okay, mutilation of the body. Chop me off in pieces. And you say as long as it's okay, because I consent, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's up
They
to
consent
them.
to it. Yeah.
Do you
It's
see
not
the
my
point?
body.
I don't
Yes.
like it. I would ask them why. Why do you want to harm yourself? But
Yeah, but you're okay with it.
the Lord himself
That's
makes
why.
all
That is
sense.
why I bring you back to the question that I was trying to address. Is as human beings,
The very best of us.
we should live our life according to the best standards. If you are trying to put forward a standard where don't do things unnecessarily and unjustly, agree.
To animals. Yeah.
What? To everything.
To every sentient being.
Everything.
Every
Look,
sentient being, not everything.
Look.
150,000.
Sentient being.
If you cut the flow of water to a land which is fertilized by the water, I consider this to be unjust. But you are saying it's not a sentient being. Land is not sentient. What if it becomes dry and millions of people die because of starvation afterwards because of the drought? I would say, look, your way of thinking and my way of thinking. My way of thinking is I'm trying to use my way of thinking from Islam. Islam says, look after yourself, look after the environment, look after your fellow beings. So if
when you say beings,
look after the fellow environment. Beings means your animals. Let me give you two examples. Yeah? One with the human being and one with the animals. So when we eat animals, chicken or a cow or a sheep
Or a dog or a cat in
we
other
don't eat
countries.
we don't eat dogs and cats.
Well, some
There
people
are-
do.
Some people do. There are certain things we eat, certain things we don't eat, and there is a reason for it. But in general, when we say we want to eat these things, we can't just eat them. We take the life away with the permission of God that God has given us, only with the permission of God. We say Bismillah.
Can I ask you a
Allahu
question?
Akbar.
Can I ask you a question?
Can I finish these 2 points and then you can ask, right? So the life that we take away is with the permission of God. But how do we take a life? For example, when we slaughter these animals,
Not
murder.
everybody can
When
grow
we slaughter-
plants on their land.
right?
What if you've got a mountain?
We don't slaughter in front of another animal because we know
It's halal,
they
right?
understand. Yes, we know they when they see, they experience this, and they feel, and you can see how they react.
Supposed to go
And
destitute.
we want to slaughter them in a way which is most merciful way, so they don't experience the pain.
So animals
That's why.
are worthy of moral consideration.
That's not a question about morality here.
No,
Question
but you
about
are.
mercy. So when we slaughter them in the most merciful way with the permission of God.
But they have an interest in living.
See, I'm just putting forward one argument
Go
about
on,
showing the
let's
mercy.
let him finish, I'll let him
Second,
Fertilize
about human beings. If, for
at a
example,
rate to feed 7 billion
I
people without animal manure from cows,
you know,
from
wealthy
sheep,
enough
pigs.
to sustain my life with food, and my neighbor goes
Why are you coming out here?
hungry and starves to death, our Prophet ﷺ said that I am not even a believer. I'm not even a believer. I'm not even a believer in Islam, in his Prophet. That a believing person, that he is fully fed and his neighbor goes hungry in starvation. That shows the responsibility that we have for our neighbors. Even our neighbors have a right. They should not go hungry and starve to death if we have the means to help them. Yeah? So you can see the responsibility that we have. Islam provides this standard of living, the standard of interaction, the standard of behavior between all the creation. So what I showed you about the animals, and I showed you about the dead land and the water,
Dry land, yeah.
dry land, and about the animals. We have to be living in a way which is, you know, something that the best standards of living. So this is what we're trying to invite you to.
Therefore, we get a vet.
If you look at your way of living, you are always constantly trying to live a life which is noble, which is peaceful, which is just, which is humane, which is merciful. You're trying to live your life as the best way of living, right? Experience.
Because it's full of calcium and
These
it's full of good
living
medicine.
standards
And it's produced by
can
good
either
English
come
farmers
from
right up and down this
our
country.
experiences, and we make errors in our experience as we learn,
Yeah, of course.
or it can come from God through His prophets and messengers.
Right.
What we are saying is, God the Creator has given us the standards of living throughout the ages, through the prophets and messengers, and the last prophet being Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we can perfect the nobility of our character. And this is what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was raised. One of the main reasons he says, بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. I'm raised to perfect and raised to perfection in nobility of the character. You are noble, but you can perfect the character of yours. And this is what Islam does. Islam is not about, you just have some kind of cultish living. It's a living where it's the best way of living in relation to your Creator and your purpose. So you're fulfilling your purpose, and you are. Excellent question. What is the purpose of your lung?
My lungs, to breathe.
Your ears, balance and hearing.
Yeah.
So we have purposes.
To live, is that what you're saying?
No, what is the purpose of every organs of your body seems to quite clearly have functions and purposes that are not set by you and me. As a whole, what is the purpose that is not set by you and me?
The purpose is not set by you and me, but set by the Creator.
It has to be something that we haven't set. So we need to know what it is. So ultimately,
Technically, it's to breathe. Technically, it's to breathe.
what if someone's sterile? They have no purpose in life?
No, I don't think our purpose is to breathe. I don't think we should breathe. There's too many humans.
Yeah. So you've answered your one question.
Yeah.
The purpose of life is not just to breathe. Okay. This is maybe something that is something natural progression of life. So life continues through this process of offspring, but that's not the purpose. Some people don't have children. That doesn't mean they have no purpose. And that's
I'm not going to have children.
I'm sure you will.
I won't.
Okay, let's leave that discussion for another time. What we say is the purpose of our creation, of our existence here.
Yeah.
We cannot determine ourselves
Yeah.
because all of our determination is subjective. The only way we can know is when the Creator tells us what's the purpose of our creation. So in the Quran, our Creator tells us the purpose of creation is to worship.
How is it only way to know something?
Worship our Creator.
I would like to know how is it the only way to know how we are created.
The only way to know our purpose, because we will have all these ideas.
How is this the only way? You have to explain
Okay, our purpose is to breed. This is one example, right? Is that the only purpose?
evidence we can get from the evidence. Apart from
Is that the purpose?
No, this is the only conclusive purpose of life, not just our life, the whole life.
I'm saying this is just a process.
True evidence.
But that may not be the purpose. That's how it is.
Whatever other purpose there is, there has to be an evidence for it. Otherwise, there's no need to believe in it.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, life progresses through this procreation. It seems to me this is how the system is of life. Animals to procreate. It's already built in. It's already built in. Natural processes, right? But it's not the purpose. I mean, if something is already built in, it doesn't tell you what the purpose of this living is.
Well, that is the reason it's built in. Because this is the only reason it's built in, so that the life can survive.
For what reason? Exactly.
Just to survive.
No. Just to survive is not the reason. Survival is the process.
You know what, I think I'm going to let you two carry on, okay?
Have you read the Quran?
I have not. Can I read it online?
You can read it online.
Okay. Is it obviously English translation?
English translation available. Read multiple translations. So what you'll see that if you read in a topical way, what's the concept of God? Our purpose is how we should be living. Prophets. What happens after we die? Is that the end of it? Is there such a thing called justice? And if there is there such a thing called hellfire and paradise? If you understand these concepts first, about God, about the role of prophethood, about the hereafter, and your purpose in this life, you will see that you will find a direction. And next time we talk, we can have a discussion on that. Okay, Brad?
Mansur? Yeah, take it.
What's your name? Najib.